So this week we are spending time thinking about qualitative research, and maybe this class is one of the first times that you've been introduced to qualitative research, or maybe that's something that's spoken to you for a while. But it is different. It is different than I think what we normally think of as research. And when we have our discussion around the heuristic, I'll talk a little bit more about maybe why that is. But let's just talk about an introduction to qualitative research, not week 14. I like this. Obviously, it's a long definition, but I've kind of highlighted some words in here. It is a situated activity, and so it does a lot to locate us as the researcher and participants as the folks that we're interested in the world. And so often the aims, often what we're doing in qualitative research is different than maybe what we want to do with quantitative research. It's interpretive. It has a series of representations that include field notes, conversations, photographs, recordings. You can see that the data here is different. It's often words or other representations of what's happening in the world. And so it's interpretive. You can see here, naturalistic. We want to study things in their natural settings when we're in qualitative research. And we want to think about the meanings that people bring to what we're interested in. So it doesn't mean that we don't still have rigor, and it doesn't mean we don't have research questions. They're going to look different, but that's one definition of qualitative. Sorry for how this is kind of scrolling through. So it's an inquiry process based on a tradition that explores, as you can see here, a social or human problem. And as a qualitative researcher, we might be very positioned within the context that we're researching, which is different also from quantitative, but we want to build this complex, holistic picture, analyzing words, detailing views of participants in a natural setting. So if you're thinking, wow, this sounds very congruent with social work, yes. We'll talk here in a bit about some strengths and limitations, but that is qualitative research. And I love this metaphor. I use it a lot. I love this picture. We use metaphors a lot, often in qualitative research too. But think of this, that qualitative research is an intricate fabric composed of minute threads of many colors with different textures and a various blend of materials. So I love that. Again, just sort of the picture that's building in your mind. That's what we do with qualitative. It does bring a lot of richness and a lot of depth and detail. So when we think of that, there's some trade-offs, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's kind of qualitative, if that helps you, again, envision what this research is. So why do qualitative? Maybe it's the nature of your research question, right? It's a topic that needs exploration. So exploratory research design, we don't know much about it. So we need to start kind of, back at the beginning and what we want to know. We might need those details and that natural setting, right? We might have time and resources available to do the qualitative research. And we want to be in that active learner role. We want to tell the story. We don't want to take our position of power, authority, privilege into maybe that research context. We want to let the participants do that. And so again, I'm sure you're hearing this and thinking there are a lot of strengths of qualitative for social work. And yes, and as we can see here in the time and resources available, that's one big limitation often for doing this kind of research. Let's continue to look. So from a conference, a Council on Social Work Education, that's CSWE, strengths that were noted from this presentation that I went, and it's a bit why I have us do some things sometimes in groups when we think about this CBPR's community-based participatory research here at the bottom. But that kind of a model, so having community-based, so we're in the community, it's participatory, so the participants that we're interested in are also very much a part of this process. So having a model like this, as you can imagine, ensures that participants are treated as equal to the researcher. It's very powerful. It gives participants voice, and it can inspire that social change in communities, right? When you're very integral to what's happening and you kind of have that agency in it, you have buy-in, and you can really work towards a different end, that depth, that richness. Because often people are excluded, right, from full participation, it's a big word today, that can happen. So research that's not representative and lack the inclusive and equitable engagement, right, if we think about this, have resulted historically in disparate policies, resources, and service that fail to address needs. And so when we have one voice in the research process, often academia, often agency administration, that sort of thing, like that's the voices that get represented. So if we can think about the power of a community-based, or any kind of, I think, qualitative, this community-based participatory action sort of research definitely does this. It is the focus, and so that can be very powerful. Oh, so there's so many strengths, richness, depths, insights. Again, just that DEI work, that equitable inclusion of voices and centering that, doing that in communities. It's flexible, like all of these things are strengths, and so we can get a lot of new insights. Not that we can't out of other types of research, but just that situation of that as a definite strength. There are some limitations. So subjectivity, again, if we're okay with subjectivity, and often we just need to name it and highlight it as we go along through the research process, that can be okay, but there is subjectivity very much in this. It is even more at the forefront than in quantitative. So we need to think through that. And then there is this limited replication. So when we think about evidence-based practice, we are often thinking about that in terms of more quantitative methods because we're looking for that replication over time, that it's consistent, right? That consistently, time after time, that's reliability. We're getting the same results with similar types of people, different types of people, whatever's happening. So our ability to do that with qualitative is somewhat limited. Because of the nature of it, right? We're very situated in the one time, the one place with the one community. And that doesn't mean there can't be some building of knowledge over time. It does take more time, right? And again, there is this limited generalizability. So if that's not the aim, to generalize, if we want to just say something about this community, this group at this time, maybe we do it again in a couple of years and we get similar results, the same, with different folks at a different time, like we can say some different things, but if that's not the aim of qualitative research or of your study, is it really a limitation? I think the other two that I didn't add on this slide is time and resources. It is time intensive, resource intensive to do a qualitative study. I started one 2 years ago that I'm still working on. There's a lot of reasons for that, but to really get in and look at the data, the words, all of the artifacts, all the things that we're doing, it can often take a lot of resources and time and energy and skills that not every researcher might have. So we can be interactive, right? We're really in getting data from people, or it could be non-interactive, right? We might find documents, we might find artifacts, we might find other ways that are less interactive in those research approaches. And then some research traditions that are common, right, that are listed in the book. So you've got phenomenology, it's a big word, and so we're trying to really get the experiences around some kind of phenomenon. You've got ethnography, cultural characteristics of a group of people, case study, that's really one, could be more than one, but really in depth with a very small and grounded theory. So if you think about Brene Brown and her wholehearted living, that is a grounded theory. It came out of looking at vulnerability, and she built theory around that. And so thinking through then the data collection and the analysis, how those different things unfold. So that's a quick introduction to qualitative. You might find a lot of resonance around it. I find it amazing and challenging all at the same time.